Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. As I shared when I did my Organized Affairs webinar, I was going to start with a series of virtual as well as visual interviews on the topic. And I wanted to kick it off with estate planning. And of course, today joining me is Roslyn Morris, who is an estate planning attorney. And she's actually my estate planning attorney. So we're going to have a conversation so you know what everything is, what you need, and of course, how you can contact Roz, because this is a subject that we all need to talk about. And we all need to really kind of gather our family around and just really have these open conversations. So Rosalind, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your podcast.
So Roz, before we start with the questions, because I have my list of questions, I would like for you to tell those watching just about you as well as your firm.
Okay. So I have been practicing law well over 25 years. I love what I do. I have a passion for it. We service people in the area of real estate, okay, business law, and estate and financial planning. We really in a position that works best for them, okay? We have a heart to make sure that they are well aware of the situation that they're in and how other factors really impact their present situation. So we really do a great job at this as well, okay? And I
Mm. So I recently had a webinar called Organized Affairs, and it was so wonderful, the conversation that came about afterwards. And so I have a few questions. So my first question in regards to just estate planning and then some of the elements that may be in part of the estate plan is, Roz, what is the purpose of a life insurance policy? Because a lot of people, they get a little confused as what the real purpose is and why you
now,
should have it. So what is the purpose of a life insurance policy?
okay. Now, most people know a life insurance policy and think about it just for um, funeral expenses. Okay. That's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons. Okay. And so the other reason, and it's all about the planning, right? You need to have enough in your policy to cover those bills that you have. Okay. Because you don't want to leave your loved ones with, oh my goodness, your bills. People think, oh, when I die, it won't matter. The creditors, it does matter to the creditors, especially when you have a mortgage. And especially if you're leaving a loved one like a spouse or young children, you have to plan out and you can plan it out. Another aspect of just having a life insurance is a means of creating generational wealth. So not only cover your funeral expenses and your liabilities, but it enhances your assets. In fact, it creates an estate, and we'll talk about what an estate is. It creates one immediately, okay? So that means you have assets, you have value to you in your life, right? And so we use it as a tool too. It's one of our tools that we use to create generational wealth. So
Mm.
it's many facets and different nationalities use it for that. We have people, I know you have young audience, but we have a broad range of audience, I know. Remember the Kennedys, okay? They still have their property on Martha Vineyards because one, they did estate planning, right? They used life insurance policies, and other means, trust, to keep the property going from generation to generation to generation. That's just one example. Steve Jobs did it, right? So Apple, his children and his heirs and for generations forward will be set for life because he had the right life insurance policy and he had his estate plan, like a trust was established. Everybody doesn't need a trust, right? But you need to know what it is that you need in your situation. Unfortunately, people like Prince didn't have a will. I don't even know if he had life insurance, right? And so what happens, you don't have those things set in place, then like a life insurance. Also, let me just say this is more exciting because a lot of people don't realize this. With a life insurance policy, if your state has what's called an inheritance tax, right? And that's the type of tax that is only taxed to a deceased estate. Okay, so when who dies, their estate. Okay, you have a life insurance policy, that money isn't calculated in that inheritance return. Okay, so it's exempt. That's what I'm saying, folks. And so what you're leaving to people in a will, if you have a will, and I pray that you have a will, you can leave them the monetary money in the life insurance policy, right? And then you can figure out with your estate attorney how you can minimize the taxes that your loved ones will have to pay, that you may be leaving them in the will.
Mm.
If you don't leave them, if you don't have a will, we haven't gotten to that yet. So I won't get too excited. I'll hold them.
Well, that was my next question, but and then you brought up another term. But let's talk about the will, because like you said, Prince didn't have a will. So many people don't have wills, and there are people who actually have wills created, but then they don't take that step of getting, the witnesses and the notarization. So then when they pass away, it's not really valid. So what
Or they have to
is the
go
purpose?
jumping through hoops. They have to
Yeah.
jump through hoops. Yeah. So it's totally unnecessary. So, oh my goodness. Okay. So the purpose of a will is really to allow people legally to know your intentions, how you want your hard worked money or your inheritance, right, that you have received from someone else to be distributed to your loved ones or to an organization. You don't have to give it to loved ones. If you say something like, I don't have anybody, it's just me. Well, don't you stand for something? Isn't there some nonprofit organization? And I say nonprofit because if you give it to a nonprofit, once again, it really helps you minimize and reduce your tax liability when it comes to this inheritance tax, okay? And so the purpose of the will is to tell people how you really feel, but it's also to just make sure that your assets are distributed in the way that they need to be distributed and your liabilities will be paid. First of all, you gotta let them know. Some people just don't know your business because you haven't told anybody, which is a mistake, or you haven't written them down anywhere. Because we give our clients and anybody, right, this free estate and financial planning checklist. So it really outlines who you are, and who you are is really your estate. And we'll talk about defining what estate means. So the will really expresses all of that, okay? And it's important because if you don't do it, and I always say to my clients, I don't want anybody to get in my business. Well, the state will get in your business because you didn't take the time to really manage your life in such a way and give yourself a will to let people know where you wanted your money to go. It'll go to who the state says it goes to. There are the state and probate laws laid out just for people who didn't take the time. Some people say, I don't have anything. You do. What you have matters, right? You yourself matter, right? But you could have something that's just priceless, but there is someone who could benefit from it, or that watch that you used to wear, right? Your niece may want it, or your daughter may want it. If you don't tell them that they can have it in the will, then it may just go walking on the day of your repast, right? When people come over to your house, right? Or
Yeah.
about that, right? Or, it may be according to the law, it may go to someone else who really doesn't appreciate it, who wouldn't appreciate it. So you just have to think about these things. I've heard people say, well, let them fight about it. Why? Why not change your generation? Why not make a difference, right? Why not go prove to the next generation that you all can live a peaceable life?
Mm-hmm.
Anymore. That's what you did in your generation, maybe. Okay. But don't let it happen in the next. Project that love. And also, what I tell my clients, if you have secrets, right? It could be a secret recipe. That's how famous Amos became famous because his grandmother gave him this secret chocolate chip cookie recipe. Some of you may not remember famous Amos, but he became a millionaire because his grandmother left him this recipe, right? She raised him up, he got it. That was her secret recipe, but she spread the word to that loved one and he made use of it. And so in that next generation, that's generational wealth, right? He created it right then and there. Secret that I didn't want to tell someone so that they were adopted. They're going to find out once you die, right? It could happen. So why not let it come from you? You don't have to tell them in words, right? Verbally. I tell people to write a letter and make all those confessions, be it good ones or ones you don't feel comfortable about. But make them, bring wholeness to that next generation as well.
That is so
I don't even
good,
think
Roz.
about that, but those are things I've seen a lot come through my doors in these last 5+ years.
Yeah. So before we get to estate planning, Raj, you mentioned a trust, and that was something I've heard from somebody else. So what exactly is a trust?
A trust is really a creation of an entity within itself. It kind of shields and protects your assets, right? And when you do create a trust, I really tell people if you want to create a trust, you really need to have a discussion with your attorney to see if it's the right thing for you. Some people of the misunderstanding, if they create a trust, then it won't go into the inheritance tax. But as the law stand right now in PA's tax, yes, those assets are looked at inside of a trust. And so that's not the correct interpretation here in the state of PA. Now, states vary, right? But you definitely should have a trust if you want your real estate, for instance, to go from generation to generation to generation. I have a client who has over $1 million in artwork. See the artwork? This is not their artwork, their collection of artwork, but now they have actually journaled it. It has its own book of all the artwork they got. So nobody could walk out the door with it, okay? And its value has been appraised by a certified African-American, praised it because it's African-American art. And so that artwork now is in the trust, is, it's in there. And so they've created a foundation, and so that their artwork can go and be on exhibits throughout the United States or wherever. So, trust will come into play with preserving one's property from generation to generation to generation. That's how you can really use it.
Okay. All right. So now, Roz,
And
let's
there are
talk about.
tax benefits from it too.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. And now let's talk about estate planning. And for those of you watching, yes, Roz is doing my will and my estate plan. And that checklist is thorough. Can I say that? It is thorough because it makes you think about stuff. So, Roz, what exactly is the purpose of an estate plan?
Okay, first of all, I just want to define what an estate is. Okay. So an estate is your assets minus your liabilities, which is your net worth. Okay, so it's at any given point in time, just like a balance sheet is for a company, right? So we're looking at our client at, at a range of time where they are now. So that means, right, you are in part of your estate. You, the person, okay? People just think about estate planning like, oh, put the cross up. I'm not dying. It has nothing to do with that. We're talking about planning for your now and your future, building wealth, and then also after death, but really also while you're living, planning. Okay, so we're talking about you, we're talking about your health, we're talking about your personal property, your real estate property, your business, your money, and your finances. That all comprises of your estate. And remember, then we minus out your liabilities, okay? And then you have your net worth. That's it. That's your estate. And so we plan it out. We plan using investments, right? Because we want you to get the most out of your money. We want to show you how your money that you worked hard for, now you can turn it around and build it and allow it to work hard for you, right? So we look at your investments, we look at your life insurance, we look at if you're an entrepreneur, okay? Do you have multiple streams of income coming in, which you need to build wealth these days, right? That's the capitalist system. And so we even show people if they're interested in becoming professionals or even doing what I do when it comes to financial services, we show them how they can go about getting a license to be a life insurance agent, which I am also an investment agent, getting your securities investments, right? You get a license. I'm working on my securities, but we have a team of people right now who are licensed, who work with our client, right? I'm working on my license right now. And so this is like a commercial. Those who want to make that additional income, give me a call and I'll give you my information afterwards, because we're looking for warriors to come out into the field and, really touch the people in your family. Start with you, your family members, and just those referrals, and really help people to open up their eyes to see that it can be them, right? It's not pie in the sky, but it can happen for them because we are teaching them how they can make a difference. And really, the buzzwords nowadays is generational wealth, wealth building, right? We can show them how to do that. Before it was economic development. It's the same, a betterment, prosperity for us all,
Mm,
our community.
mm. So
And
that's
so that's what an estate, you know, and financial planning is all about.
mm. And that's good to know, because I know as I was going through my checklist and really looking at all the questions, it really made me begin to think about, my net worth and some of the things, like you said, it's for the now. And it's like, okay, now there's some stuff I need to work on. There's some debt I just need to get rid of, so that can really build up my net worth.
Exactly. And now, Jenna, you know, we've been going through, we teach people how to do debt solution just
Mhm.
2 days ago. This is just a recent example of many, but I work with seniors too. There was I think she's 77-year-old woman who had a slew of credit cards. I mean, just a slew that was valued for her was really too much at age 77, right? Over, I'll say $30,000.
Mm.
It really was more than that. But anyway, and then she had two loans, a mortgage and then another loan that was unsecured, right?
Wow.
So if she had paid off everything according to their schedule,
Hmm.
it would have taken her 40 years. I mean, with the mortgage and everything. Um, the mortgage wasn't high, but based on what she was paying, okay. Now we did a debt solution for her. She can pay it off in by the age of 84. Okay, so that's 7 years from now. And then she thought of ways we cut some of her bills, so we put her into a plan, and she was like, "Oh my goodness, it saved her over $200,000 worth of interest." If she implements the plan, and I told her, don't use the credit card anymore. We're putting in an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey, if you all know about Dave Ramsey, he always talks about emergency funds. Start off at 500 if you don't have 1,000, right? So when you have those things that really aren't unexpected, but they're unexpected in terms of when they're going to break down, right? If you have it, then that's your emergency. You go into your emergency fund and that's what you use it for, right? And then you replenish it all over again. So we put an emergency fund in for her. We have her maximizing, because she's still working, the 401k that her job is giving her. And now she can really pay her debt in the way that she needs to. Okay, according to the plan we put together for her. So, right, Dan, so when you talk about minimizing that liability, right? So you can maximize, which is what we want you to do, maximize those assets and reduce those taxes, transfer taxes, gift taxes, generation skipping taxes. We plan all that, and inheritance tax while you're living.
Mm, mm.
The great old income tax.
So Raj, I could talk to you forever, but how can people connect with you to, whether they want to get insurance, the debt, the estate planning, how can they connect with you?
Okay, I want people to know too, we can cover all of North America when it comes to our financial services. Okay, I'm licensed in a few states, but when it comes to estate planning, I can really cover the United States, right? I have different attorneys that I network with. So are open. And the thing is, because of 2020 and COVID, as we're doing right now, it's all virtual. It can be all virtual. I don't necessarily need to come to you or you come to my office, okay? I started doing virtual on Zoom 2 years before 2020. And so now my clients are so excited about it. We're a little apprehensive what we're doing, but it makes life so convenient because I do have a lot of seniors who are thinking about estate planning and doing it. But I'm telling you, you should do it then because, as I said, the state is ever changing, right, with your circumstances. But you should do an estate plan and financial planning the minute really you become a young adult and you have a job, right? Because we want you to avoid these two major risks. One is if you unfortunately die too soon, which prematurely, we want to make sure that you have enough life insurance to cover all those things we talked about, right? And to leave an inheritance for your family, right? Your loved ones, or that nonprofit organization, that cause that you've been fighting for and fighting with, right? Okay. And so you should always do an estate plan. So you can reach me at my number, 484-466-8771. That's 484-466-8771. I am located outside of the Philadelphia area in Bala Kenwood, my office is, but I'm on all social media. I promised myself that I would be more active. I have this conversation all the time, that I would be more active on social media. So you can find me under Roslyn Morris Law. And if you can see my name printed on top, because Roslyn could be spelled so many different ways, it's ROS as in Sam, LYN, Morris, M as in Mary, ORRIS, and then Law, LAW. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. I have my own website, okay, that we're working on, but it's up and running, okay? And I Twitter every so often. You all be patient with me. We're out there, but you can definitely contact me by looking at those. You can go on my website and on Facebook, and you can schedule appointments with me there. And then call me. We really get back to people within a 48-hour. You'll hear my voice. I wanted people to feel really connected and touched by me. So you'll hear my voice when you call on my line. It'll be me talking to you. Okay. And my goal is to get back to everybody within a 48-hour period. Okay.
And of course, those who are watching, I will have all of Roz's information below this link. And of course, for those of you who may be watching for the first time and thinking, well, who is that lady? Well, I am better known as Organizer Janet. I have been helping people get organized for over 27 years. And I want to thank you so much for watching this segment. And there are going to be more conversations like this with, Roz and I may come back and talk about a different conversation, but I'm sure she'll come back because Roz and I could talk about a lot of subjects. So I truly thank you. Continue to share this and continue to have a great day.
Bye.